So after about 220 hours playing Crimson Desert, I finally finished the main quest, along with every Abyss puzzle. And I realized you can climb all the way up to the 3rd floor of the Axiom Archive, which is located in the first Abyss Island. The books you find in the archive reveal all the insane twists and explanations about this game's story and writing that the game never really explained during the campaign. In this video, I will go over each book and explain why Kliff does seemingly random tasks, why he's so emotionless, why he doesn't question his death, why do characters such as Alustin, White Crow, and Goyen talk like they know him, and the meaning behind the cryptic talk of most boss encounters. It's honestly ridiculous how this is not part of the main quest, and only a very small minority of players will ever find this, which is why I decided to share it. Number 1. The time leap allows us to escape Umbra, yet it changed nothing. Umbra will surely arrive in this era once more. All we can do is hope to find the one who can alter this seemingly absolute fate. So if you remember, Umbra is this big bad entity you fight at the end of the game. But do you know why he exists? Umbra's knowledge entry is described as the purest form of power, existing since the dawn of time. It had no will of its own, no sense of good and evil, just a mass of sheer power, until it overflowed like a river led astray from the abyss to rain down all across Pywell in the form of artifacts. The worldly desires of those who came into contact with its fragmented power seeped back into the abyss, and it believed them to be the true reflection of the world. So at the end of the epilogue, when meeting Sebastian again, he explains you that the Crimson Desert was named this way due to the bloodshed that spilled in the sands for generations, and invites you to explore the desert more. After discovering some of the atrocities that took place in the desert, another knowledge passage reveals that Umbra was once a neutral entity, but eventually became corrupted from the grief and cruelty of humankind, most specifically from those who picked up the artifacts, as their desires seeped back into the abyss, shifting it out of balance. These events initially started in the Crimson Desert, the land soaked crimson in blood, which explains why this region is so important. From the book passage, we can establish the core premise. The Guardians have the power to rewind time, the time leap, but Umbra isn't defeated by doing so. He simply catches up again. Their only real option is to find someone capable of ending it for good.
I've been waiting for you. Just as virtue paves the path to wisdom, your deeds have brought us together once more.
As we will see with the following passages, each number in the book pages represents a cycle. The big plot twist is that Crimson Desert is actually a time-traveling story, and this timeline has repeated itself many times in the past. Every time Kliff fails his task to defeat Umbra, the Guardians rewind time and try a different approach. Cycle 3. We have observed the power of Umbra near the musket of Damiene. There must be one within the lands of Pywell capable of stopping it. We must look to Pailune. It is a land where the power of nature remains strongest. Cycle 4. At last, we have found the one we sought, an unwavering spirit with immense potential. Surely he is the one to accomplish this task. He is not perfect, but that is of no concern. We shall guide him. This is when the Guardians decide Kliff is their chosen person. Cycle 5. I sought the Shays to borrow their power, so their bright energy might be passed on to him. This also explains why Shays, a typically secluded race that doesn't let anyone get near their village, are generally friendly and helpful to Kliff. Cycle 2. Umbra managed to devour a fragment of White Crow. Her uncorrupted half is alive and still aids us, but the fractured essence of her disappeared into the land below. Cycle 18. The fragmented part of the crow has surfaced. This entity, now called Hexe, has discovered him. She harbors a deep obsession with him, wishing to make him her son. Master Du must step in and deliver his trials. As we will find out, this is actually Hexe, the witch you fight in the main quest. Notice she is basically the dark crow instead of the white crow. According to the knowledge entry, Hexe is a wicked witch who follows Umbra. She turned the lands near Tariv into a realm of nightmares. With twisted affection, she raises her children by infusing them with dark power, only to devour them and claim that strength as her own. Though her power is immense, she shows signs of instability, as if she were somehow incomplete. And this all makes sense, because she is incomplete, as she's essentially the corrupted half of White Crow. And this also explains why she consumes her child before the fight. Hexe is obsessed with Kliff, which is a distorted mirror of White Crow's attachment to Kliff, and wishes to adopt him, as you can see by her cutscene during the boss fight. This obsession naturally causes her adopted son, the crow caller you fight early in the story, to be immensely jealous of you. This is reflected by his dialogue during his fight, where he's constantly talking about his mother and why she prefers Kliff. Master Du, which is another guardian figure, is called to guide Kliff spiritually to overcome the temptation of becoming her adopted son. This is because in one of the past cycles, Kliff actually succumbs to the temptation and becomes adopted by Hexe.
How disappointing. You couldn't even carry out your mother's command. Not that I ever expected much from you.
Mother! She would always go on and on about you so fondly! In front of me! Her very own son!
I've no interest in your story.
I should be all that she sees. In her eyes, I must prevail above all!
Are you all right?
You rescued me from my own twisted shade. Thank you. Truly.
Cycle 7. I attempted to reach him directly within his mind. He has chosen to ignore our calling. A failure. Cycle 8. We attempted to grant him the power of the crow, but he refused to jump. I cast him back down to the land below. He simply would not accept the power. These passages indicate that in early cycles, Kliff initially rejected both their appeal and the flying abilities they try to give him. This is why the guardians and witches are always so vague and indirect when they speak to him, because they learned across these early cycles that he shuts down completely when approached directly, and has to be nudged toward his destination without ever being told what it is. Cycle 17. I attempted to make Kearush his ally. However, the humans locked him up in a zoo. In his despair, he slaughtered everyone in the vicinity. We are left with deep regret and frustration. Kearush, the monkey-like monster you fight in the dining hall early in the game, was initially set to be your ally, but things go wrong and he's imprisoned. This is also probably why he decides to run away and later helps you during the Whitehorn boss fight. I'm guessing something in him still sees Kliff as an ally. Cycle 19. I sought aid from the 4 witches who constructed the sanctums to return balance to the abyss. Unable to overcome their trials, he has failed time and time again. These are the 4 witches that ask you to cleanse the sanctums. In earlier time loops, Kliff failed this task many times. Cycle 25. He is still far too weak. We must grant him greater strength. I will summon the witches of the East into this world to assist him. These are Woosa and Maegu intervening on Kliff's journey, 2 witches with time-shaping powers that you meet. They didn't come out of nowhere. They were directly summoned by the Guardians. Cycle 26. Perhaps he has grown too comfortable at Jian's side. Kliff's time has simply stopped. His daily life grows rough and indifferent. This shows that in earlier loops, Kliff becomes too settled to the Greymanes and Pailune, causing him to fail his task in the Abyss. Something must change. Cycle 35. Pushing him to Myardine's side was a bitter mistake. The more they shared a path, the deeper he sank into an uncontrollable darkness. At some point, they tried to push Kliff to Myardine's side, which, predictably, didn't end well. Cycle 36. Lacking the motivation to restore balance, he repeats his failures. The situation is dire. We must find a new approach. Cycle 39. We created a peaceful Pailune, a land untouched by conflict. Damiene eventually invaded Hernand. Jian belatedly sent reinforcements through Calfade, but it was not enough. This timeline resulted in peace around Pailune, which also didn't work. What we can take from this is that if there is peace in Pailune, Kliff never finds the motivation to pursue his task, and the armies will never be prepared to fight Caliburn's army later on. At this point, you can probably guess what's going to happen. Jian's death and the Greymanes massacre were deliberately caused by the Guardians in order for Kliff to find the necessary motivation for his task. Cycle 45. After the loss of his comrades, he pressed forward alone and adopted the name Goyen. His existence is the fault of us all. Cycle 47. Our painstaking creation is trapped within Umbra. Goyen now wanders the void, neither living nor dead. Cycle 54. Goyen used the power we granted him for his own gain. It is difficult to bear the sight of his corrupted form. Cycle 83. With the Greymanes scattered, nothing could be done. I could not save Goyen in his final moments. He is left lingering in nothingness once more. Cycle 99. I asked Goyen to guide his younger spirit. Our chances are steadily fading. How many attempts do we have left? Goyen is a previous version of Kliff who lost every companion in Cycle 45, pressed on alone, and eventually became trapped in the abyss, neither alive nor dead, slowly corrupted over subsequent cycles. We can infer that the time shift does not affect the abyss, which is why Goyen seemingly lives on over several cycles. This explains Goyen's identical fighting style, his face tattoos mirroring Kliff's, and why every conversation between them feels like something is being left unsaid. By Cycle 99, the Guardians are starting to use him to guide a newer version of himself. He's not a mysterious stranger who happens to fight like Kliff. He is Kliff, just broken by everything the Guardians put him through.
You were expecting me?
Our steps have always followed the same current. I've watched your every choice unfold. You were never wrong. Every path you chose was the right one.
Cycle 78. Placing Marius on the battlefield was a mistake. Nyra also met her end after being sent to observe the Black Bear's movements. Their deaths drove him to madness. Cycle 82. To think Dwayne would turn his back on them. It was a grave miscalculation. We had crafted his attachment to Shane to temper his fiery disposition, but fate flowed in another direction. Shane, too, went utterly astray, ultimately becoming the spark that dismantled the Greymanes. Cycle 83. With the Greymanes scattered, nothing could be done. I could not save Goyen in his final moments. He is left lingering in nothingness once more. This shows the Guardians have been manipulating the lives of those surrounding the Greymanes to find the best combination of events to motivate Kliff on his task. They realize they can't simply exterminate every Greymane, because then Kliff will simply lose his will to fight. There needs to be only enough loss to shape Kliff's journey of vengeance, which is why Marius breaks a leg, preventing him from fighting during the night of the ambush. Cycle 38. Will Damiene provide an opportunity for us, or will she bring yet another failure? Deciding on her path leaves me with profound concern. This one's actually funny, because it sounds like an admission from the developers that they didn't actually know what to do with Damiene as a character, as she is absent for most of the story. Cycle 60. We granted him confidence so he might follow the path we designed for him. However, driven by an excessive competitive nature, he ultimately failed. Cycle 61. We wished to ensure his path appeared natural and subtle. Contrary to our hopes, he became overly sensitive and distressed. Cycle 62. We attempted to rid him of his fear, yet this lack of caution caused him to recklessly charge into battle against mightier beings, ultimately leading to his death. When we heightened his sense of responsibility, he simply began wandering the world, vowing to eliminate any who posed a threat. Cycle 66. Every emotion seems to lead him somewhere unintended, straying far from our desired direction. With only a few chances remaining, we have decided to extract his emotions entirely. The Guardians spent many cycles trying to shape Kliff's personality, and every single trait they gave him led to failure in a different way. Confidence made him reckless, sensitivity paralyzed him, fearlessness got him killed, responsibility sent him off on an endless crusade. In the end, removing his emotions entirely was the only version that stayed on course. This is why Kliff acts the way he does and seems to be so emotionless, because he was made to be this way. Cycle 67. The Abyss Gates appear to be opening more frequently. Could Umbra itself be growing? Cycle 71. It is as we suspected. Someone has been interfering with the Abyss Gates, yet we have no idea who or how. Cycle 72. Caliburn. Just how much does he know? He was not always an evil man. He appears to be an incarnation of Umbra. Cycle 77. I see it now. Umbra was behind it all. Umbra, much like us, was searching for a single person to stand against fate. How could a being of pure power be capable of such design? This is when things get interesting. Umbra is not fully reset when the Guardians rewind time. He is also learning and evolving with each cycle, distorting the Abyss even more. So, in an ironic way, the Guardians are actually making things worse each time they rewind. At some point, Umbra also picks an avatar to manifest himself, Caliburn, because of the accumulated corruption from each cycle. Cycle 53. The plan to assist Prince Price in reclaiming Damiene has failed. May he never be forgotten. This seems to be a reference from a discarded plotline by the developers. Helping a prince reach the throne was part of the older trailers of the game. Cycle 89. I sought aid from Blackstar, the dragon that roams the boundaries of the world. The creature thrashed wildly with him upon its back, seemingly most displeased. Blackstar, the dragon wasn't a fan of Kliff on their first meeting. I think it's safe to guess the Guardians managed to stab him with spears in order for Kliff to help and gain his trust. Cycle 90. The unexpected has happened. He offered his assistance to a woman in need, and then began aiding with small matters around the village. These small acts will eventually lead to his much grander purpose. Cycle 98. How could we have forgotten that kindness, sincerity, and empathy are what truly forge bonds? The greatest of things always begin from the smallest. Why did we only realize this now? The Guardians eventually realize that making Kliff a kind person will eventually lead him to amass the necessary armies to raid Fort Musket. This is also why he is constantly tested in this aspect, why he has to help beggars and cats in the beginning of the game, why he is pushed to help random people all the time, why the witches keep asking kindness of him. They realize this is both a way to test if the current iteration of Kliff is up to task, and a way for him to ensure he will gather the necessary alliances by the end of the story. Cycle 100. Our frustration grows deeper. There is nothing left for us to build upon, nothing left to change. What exactly went wrong? Cycle 106. Every time the Eye of Umbra seems on the verge of destruction, everything is swallowed by that same darkness once more. Having devoured his memories, Umbra will expand even further. He was so close. Yet he still lacks the decisive resolve to cast away the darkness. They've manipulated every variable, and Kliff keeps failing to defeat Umbra. In some cycles, Kliff gets to the Umbra fight, but decides to join him instead. Remember the cutscene where he rejects Umbra and says they cannot coexist? Something is missing still.
You say nothing. Are you no different?
I cannot become one with all. You and I cannot coexist.
Cycle 107. Whoever it may be, we only hope they can fulfill our wish. The next attempt will be our final chance. Our wish must come to pass. The Guardians realize their time rewinding trick is about to become useless, as Umbra also keeps evolving from each cycle and will likely overcome Kliff. The only thing left to change is to add an external variable. Whoever it may be is probably breaking the fourth wall and referring to the actual player taking control of Kliff. Cycle 108 doesn't work because the Guardians finally found the perfect version of Kliff. It works because you, the player, showed up. It's also why the loading screen looks like you, the player, are interfacing with Kliff, providing the necessary support for the last cycle to end. Another interesting fact is that Kliff completes his goal at the 108th cycle. This number is no coincidence and also has a deeper significance with other parts of the game. 108 cycles is a direct reference to the Buddhist 108 defilements, which are the impure thoughts, mental obstructions, and cravings that cloud the mind, cause suffering, and hinder enlightenment. Notice how you're suddenly fixing Buddha statues in Chapter 9, fight Master Du, who keeps lecturing you about reaching enlightenment, and take on a full Buddhist temple training course seemingly out of nowhere? That is where these Eastern themes are interwoven with the narrative, but the game never explains this directly. It's also why you can find a board with 107 tally masks in the witches' houses and in Goyen's room in the Abyss. They have been counting the cycles until Kliff's current iteration finally casts off every impure thought and feeling, and until the player stepped in and finally managed to end it all. So what do you think? Do these revelations turn Crimson Desert's disjointed story into something good? Or do you consider these books a band-aid for the poor storytelling? Leave your comments below.